Hello everyone, and welcome to our storytelling channel. In the last episode, we shared the insights of British medium Craig Parker on the close connection between reincarnation and karma. Today, we'll take you deeper into the world of cause and effect, exploring legendary stories of good, evil, blessings, and misfortune that transcend time and space. These stories are more than just ancient myths. They reveal our place in the vast river of fate through their vivid narratives. The story of Mu Lian saving his mother. A long time ago, in the kingdom of Shrivasti in ancient India, there was a devout Buddhist disciple named Mu Lian, Moggallana. He was one of the 10 great disciples of the Buddha, renowned for his supernatural abilities. Not only was Mu Lian wise, but he was also kind-hearted, often giving to the poor and helping those in need. His life was dedicated to the pursuit of wisdom and compassion, yet one thing brought him constant heartache: his mother. Mu Lian's mother was known for her greed and stinginess. Although she loved her son dearly, she lacked compassion for others. She hoarded wealth and refused to give charity, hiding large sums of money in her home, never helping the poor during her lifetime. Despite being aware of his mother's nature, Mu Lian, as a dutiful son, could not stop her wrongful actions. After his mother passed away, Mu Lian was consumed with regret, feeling that he had failed to guide her toward goodness. One day, using his supernatural powers, Mu Lian saw his mother's tragic fate. Her soul had fallen into the realm of hungry ghosts due to her past misdeeds, suffering immense hunger and pain in hell. The realm of hungry ghosts is one of the most horrifying places in the 6 paths of reincarnation. Souls here cannot eat or drink. Whenever they attempt to eat, the food turns into flames, burning their throats. Mu Lian's mother was enduring this endless torment, her wails of suffering echoing throughout the underworld. Seeing his mother in such agony, Mu Lian was heartbroken. He felt deep guilt, believing he had failed in his duty as a son by not saving his mother from her own misdeeds. He couldn't bear to see her suffer in hell any longer, so he decided to use his supernatural abilities and wisdom to save her. Mu Lian attempted to send food to his mother through his powers, but every time the food reached her mouth, it would instantly turn into flames, leaving her hunger unquenched. Realizing that his own abilities were not enough to overcome the karmic consequences of his mother's actions, Mu Lian grew increasingly desperate. He eventually turned to the Buddha for help. Kneeling before him with tears streaming down his face, he begged the Buddha for guidance and compassion to help his mother's soul escape from hell. The Buddha listened quietly to Mu Lian's plea, then kindly explained, "Mu Lian, though you possess great spiritual powers, the force of karma cannot be undone by individual strength alone. Your mother accumulated significant negative karma through her greed and misdeeds. To truly save her, you must gather great merit through acts of charity, creating bonds of goodness, and offering to monks. Only through such merit can her soul be freed." The Buddha also told Mu Lian that the 15th day of the 7th month, during the monks' rainy season retreat, was the best time for such offerings. Hearing this, Mu Lian decided to follow the Buddha's guidance and began to engage in widespread acts of kindness. He not only made offerings to monks but also encouraged others to do the same for their living parents and to pray for the salvation of deceased souls. His actions were met with overwhelming support, and together, they accumulated vast amounts of merit. With the combined blessings and offerings of countless monks, Mu Lian's mother was finally freed from hell and reincarnated as an ordinary human being, no longer enduring the torment of the hungry ghost realm. Mu Lian was overjoyed, deeply grateful for the Buddha's teachings and the collective good deeds of the people. He realized that while individual strength is powerful, true change in fate requires the accumulation of good deeds and the efforts of many. From that time onward, Mu Lian promoted the practice of offering to monks on the 15th day of the 7th month to accumulate merit and release the souls of the deceased. This tradition has been passed down to the present day as the Ulambana festival in Chinese Buddhism. The festival serves as a reminder that through acts of kindness, we can release the burdens of karma from both this life and the next, while also expressing filial piety and compassion toward our parents. The story of Mu Lian saving his mother is not only a classic example of Buddhist teachings on karma and reincarnation, but it also emphasizes the power of filial piety and the importance of accumulating merit through good deeds. Through this tale, Buddhist doctrine conveys the profound concept of karmic retribution. Our actions in this life determine our fate in the next, but through acts of kindness, destiny can be altered. While karma is powerful, the forces of compassion and good deeds are even more so. Buddha's previous life stories, the Jataka Tales. The Jataka Tales, a Buddhist scripture, contains numerous stories of the Buddha's past lives, each illustrating the idea of karma and reincarnation. These stories highlight the importance of good deeds and how they can change one's destiny, ultimately leading to liberation. One of the most famous stories is about a compassionate king in the Buddha's previous life, a tale that underscores the power of selfless giving and the accumulation of merit. A long time ago, in ancient India, there was a prosperous kingdom ruled by a wise and kind king named King Sacrifice. This king, deeply empathetic to the suffering of others, often felt sorrow for the misfortunes of his people. During his reign, he governed with compassion, promoting justice and charity, and was himself an exemplar of selfless generosity. King Sacrifice's generosity knew no bounds. Every day, he gave alms to the poor, monks, and travelers who came to his palace. His doors were always open, and anyone in need could ask for food, money, or even clothing, and the king would provide without hesitation. Because of his good deeds, his kingdom flourished, and even neighboring nations admired his virtue and sought peace with him. One day, King Sacrifice learned that a neighboring country was suffering from a severe drought. Their crops had failed, and the people faced starvation. Moved by compassion, the king knew that the neighboring nation could not survive the crisis on their own. He decided to send half of his kingdom's grain to help them through the famine. This decision caused an uproar among the king's ministers. They warned him, "Your Majesty, while our country is rich now, if we give away half our grain, what will we do if we face a disaster ourselves?" However, the king was firm in his resolve. "Saving lives is like fighting a fire," he replied. "The people of our neighboring kingdom are in desperate need. We cannot stand idly by while they perish. Helping them is also an act of charity, and such merit will benefit future generations." The king's decision was met with overwhelming support from his people, who willingly donated their grain to help their neighbors. King Sacrifice personally oversaw the delivery of grain, sending ships laden with food and supplies to the stricken nation. The people of the neighboring kingdom were deeply moved by the king's generosity and praised his compassion. However, the story did not end there. While King Sacrifice continued his charitable acts, a mysterious visitor arrived at his palace. The visitor was an old man, dressed in rags, his face weathered by hardship. He asked the king for food and clothing. Without hesitation, King Sacrifice ordered his servants to bring food and new clothes for the old man. To the king's surprise, the old man refused the offering. He looked directly into the king's eyes and said, "Noble king, I have not come here to ask for food or clothing. I have come to ask for your life." Perplexed, the king asked, "Why do you ask for my life?" The old man, with sadness in his voice, replied, "I have traveled the world for many years, suffering endlessly, but I have never found relief from my inner torment. I heard of your great kindness and came to ask if you would give me your life, so that I might find peace." The king was taken aback by this request but did not hesitate for long. After a moment of reflection, he replied calmly, "If giving my life will bring you peace, I am willing to offer it." The king's willingness to sacrifice his own life not only moved the old man but also touched the hearts of the gods. As the king prepared to give his life, the old man revealed his true form. He was a deity in disguise. Smiling, the god said, "Your boundless compassion and willingness to sacrifice have moved the heavens. Your selflessness will accumulate infinite merit, and you will one day become an enlightened being, guiding countless souls toward liberation." This story of the Buddha's previous life as King Sacrifice is just one of the many tales illustrating the immense power of selfless giving and how acts of kindness can accumulate merit for future lives. Through these stories, the Jataka tales teach Buddhist followers the importance of continuously performing good deeds to progress toward enlightenment. Every act of kindness, no matter how small, paves the way to liberation. This is the core belief in karma and reincarnation. Through multiple lifetimes of accumulated virtue, the soul can eventually transcend the cycle of rebirth and reach ultimate enlightenment. The Tibetan 6 Paths of Reincarnation. In Tibetan Buddhism, life is not seen as fleeting but as a continuous cycle of rebirth, where each soul moves through the 6 realms until karma is fully balanced and enlightenment is achieved. These 6 realms include the realm of the gods, the human realm, the Asura realm, jealous gods, the animal realm, the hungry ghost realm, and the hell realm. A soul's journey through these realms is determined entirely by the karma accumulated in past lives. Tibetan Buddhism vividly depicts this cycle through the Wheel of Life, Bhavacakra, and its associated teachings. Long ago, in a small village called Lamo, there lived a young shepherd named Sanjay. His life was simple and happy. Every day, he would tend to his sheep in the lush, green mountains, living a peaceful, carefree existence. Sanjay was a kind-hearted soul who never harmed others and had never done anything wicked. To him, all life was sacred and deserving of respect. Yet Sanjay often pondered the meaning of life. What was the purpose of existence? Did life truly end after death? Why were some people born into wealth and privilege, enjoying every luxury, while others were born into poverty and suffering? Was there some cosmic order governing these disparities? One day, an elderly lama arrived in the village, carrying heavy scriptures and spinning a set of prayer beads in his hand. The lama, with his wise and gentle expression, seemed to understand the doubts in Sanjay's heart. Summoning his courage, Sanjay approached the lama and asked, "Master, why are some people born rich while others live in poverty? What happens to us after we die?" The lama smiled kindly and pointed to the distant mountains. "Young one, life is like that great mountain. Some are born at its base, while others are born halfway up. What you see is only one lifetime, but the journey of reincarnation stretches across countless lives. Each person's fate is determined by the karma they accumulated in their past lives." Still confused, Sanjay asked, "Karma from past lives? Then do our actions in this life also shape our future?" The lama nodded and invited Sanjay to follow him to the village temple nestled in the mountains. Inside the temple, Sanjay saw a massive circular diagram painted on the wall, the famous Wheel of Life. Each section of the wheel depicted the different realms of existence, illustrating the cycle of reincarnation. Pointing to the various sections, the lama began to explain, "This is the cycle of the 6 paths of reincarnation. Souls are constantly reborn into one of these 6 realms until their karma is fully balanced, and they can break free of the cycle. These 6 realms include the God's realm, the human realm, the Asura realm, the animal realm, the hungry ghost realm, and the hell realm." First, the lama pointed to the God's realm. The God's realm is where souls with vast amounts of good karma are reborn. They enjoy endless pleasure and long lives, but because they are so absorbed in their pleasures, they rarely focus on spiritual growth. Once their good karma runs out, they return to the cycle of reincarnation. Next, he indicated the human realm. The human realm is the most promising for spiritual advancement. Here, suffering and joy are both experienced, giving humans the opportunity to awaken. It is through the struggles of life that many seek the path to enlightenment. The lama continued to explain each realm in turn. The Asura realm is inhabited by beings with great power and wisdom but consumed by jealousy and anger. They are always embroiled in conflict and, though they enjoy some blessings, they are never truly at peace. Then, he pointed to the animal realm. The animal realm is for those who lived in ignorance and succumbed to their base instincts. Without the wisdom to pursue spiritual growth, they live their lives struggling for survival. Next was the hungry ghost realm. The souls in the hungry ghost realm are tormented by endless cravings and desires. Their greed and stinginess in life have condemned them to a state where they can never be satisfied. Only through the good deeds of others can these souls be freed. Finally, the lama pointed to the hell realm. The hell realm is where the most severe karmic consequences are suffered. Those who committed great evils will endure unimaginable torment here. However, even in the deepest hell, souls can eventually redeem themselves through penance and the accumulation of merit. Sanjay was deeply moved by the Lama's teachings, feeling both awe and a sense of responsibility. The Lama continued, "Your good and bad deeds in this life will directly affect your next incarnation. If you perform good deeds and accumulate merit, you may be reborn in the gods or human realms. But if you give in to greed and cruelty, you may fall into the realms of hungry ghosts or hell, where you will endure endless suffering." Sanjay lowered his head in thought, realizing that life's meaning wasn't just about present-day pleasures or pains but about accumulating merit to eventually break free from the cycle of reincarnation. He resolved to live a life of kindness and compassion from that day forward, not just for his own liberation but for the sake of all beings. The Lama gave one final piece of advice: each of these realms is the result of karmic cause and effect. Through mindful actions, charity, compassion, and wisdom, you can transform your karma and avoid falling into the lower realms. In time, you can achieve enlightenment and be freed from the cycle of reincarnation. From that day on, Sanjay dedicated himself to performing good deeds, helping the poor in his village, caring for the sick and elderly, and practicing meditation at every Buddhist festival. He hoped that through his actions, he would accumulate enough merit to escape the suffering of samsara. This story of the 6 paths of reincarnation vividly illustrates the Tibetan Buddhist understanding of karma and the cycle of rebirth. It teaches that the pleasures and pains of life, as well as one's destiny, are all shaped by past actions, and that future fate depends on the choices made in the present. Through spiritual practice and good deeds, people can gradually free themselves from the bonds of reincarnation and reach nirvana's ultimate peace. The story of King Harish Chandra from the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata is one of Hinduism's great epics, containing numerous stories about karma, reincarnation, and the reaping of good and evil deeds. One of the most poignant stories is that of King Harish Chandra, a noble and virtuous king whose unwavering commitment to truth and justice was tested by extreme hardships. This tale reveals how karma from past lives can shape one's current existence and how standing firm in righteousness can ultimately lead to liberation. A long time ago, in northern India, there ruled a kind and just king named Harish Chandra. His kingdom was prosperous, and his people lived in peace, admiring him for his dedication to truth and compassion. Harish Chandra was a selfless king, always upholding justice no matter the cost, never compromising his values for personal gain. However, even the most virtuous are not exempt from the consequences of past karma. One day, as King Harish Chandra was surveying his kingdom, the god Vishnu appeared before him and said, "Harish Chandra, the sins of your past life have yet to be resolved. Though you have lived a life of righteousness in this incarnation, your previous wrongdoings have not been erased. Now, fate will test you, and you must endure suffering to clear the debts of your karma." Vishnu's warning left Harish Chandra uneasy. He knew that no one, no matter how virtuous in the present, could escape the consequences of past deeds. He understood that everyone must pay for their actions, and karma would inevitably unfold. Not long after, Harish Chandra's kingdom was struck by an unprecedented disaster. A sudden plague swept through the land, leaving the people in great distress. To make matters worse, the royal treasury suffered enormous losses, forcing Harish Chandra to sell off all his possessions to support his people. Despite his best efforts, the king was unable to save his kingdom from hardship. Eventually, Harish Chandra lost his throne, and his trials grew even more severe. He was forced to sell his wife and son into slavery to pay off his debts, while he himself became a humble caretaker of a cremation ground. Every day, he lived among the dead, consumed by sorrow and confusion. Often, he would look up at the stars at night and ask, "I have lived a life of righteousness. Why has fate been so cruel? Does truth and justice have no meaning?" Despite the unimaginable suffering he endured, Harish Chandra never wavered in his commitment to truth. He continued to live with integrity, never bending to the harsh circumstances that surrounded him. Whenever a poor person came to him for help, he would offer assistance. Even when faced with temptations, he stayed true to his moral compass, never allowing hardship to make him stray from his principles. The most heartbreaking moment came when his wife, Shavya, came to the cremation ground carrying their son, who had died from a snake bite in the forest. Shavya, overcome with grief, begged Harish Chandra to perform the cremation rites for their child. Harish Chandra was torn apart by the situation. According to the customs of Hinduism, any cremation required a fee, and as the caretaker of the cremation ground, Harish Chandra was bound by duty to collect this fee, even from his own wife and son. Bound by his principles, Harish Chandra refused to break the rules, knowing that even his personal grief could not supersede his duty. Shavya was devastated, unable to understand why her husband would deny the final rites for their child. Harish Chandra, in turn, was overwhelmed with sorrow, yet he could not compromise his sense of duty. He knelt on the ground, tears streaming down his face, understanding that his role as a caretaker required him to fulfill his responsibilities, no matter how much pain it caused him personally. Just as Harish Chandra was about to refuse the cremation, a miracle occurred. The god Vishnu appeared in the sky and revealed a divine vision to the grieving king. Vishnu told Harish Chandra, "You have passed the ultimate test of fate. Your unwavering commitment to truth and justice has transcended the suffering of this mortal world. Your good deeds in this life have repaid your past karma, and now you shall regain all that you have lost." In that moment, Harish Chandra's wife and son were miraculously restored to life, and his kingdom's suffering was lifted. Vishnu told Harish Chandra that because he had remained true to his principles, even in the face of the greatest trials, he had conquered his past karma and broken free from the cycle of suffering. The story of Harish Chandra remains one of India's most cherished tales of virtue and truth. He proved that no matter how cruel fate may seem, goodness and justice will ultimately triumph, while the consequences of evil will always be met in time. This story not only conveys the deep philosophical message of karma and reincarnation but also emphasizes the strength of justice and truth in the face of hardship. Even when tested by the harshest of circumstances, as long as we uphold our values and maintain moral integrity, we will ultimately overcome the challenges of fate and reap the rewards of virtue. The story of Harish Chandra serves as a timeless reminder that while fate may be beyond our control, by holding firm to truth and righteousness, we can rise above suffering and achieve liberation. The reincarnation story of Bodhidharma. Bodhidharma, the founder of Zen Buddhism, led a life filled with wisdom and enlightenment. However, his journey through multiple reincarnations and cycles of karma reveals profound lessons on repentance, spiritual practice, and the cleansing of past wrongs to ultimately achieve liberation. Before Bodhidharma became a renowned Zen master, he had lived through many lifetimes. In one of his previous lives, he was a powerful and proud king. This king ruled over a vast and prosperous land, wielding unlimited wealth and military might. With no threats to his reign, his pride and greed grew unchecked. As his desire for expansion grew, the king waged war after war to seize more territory. In one such conflict, the king sought to capture a fertile region from a neighboring kingdom. His army, unstoppable and feared by all, left the enemy with no hope of resistance. The neighboring king knelt in submission, offering his land in exchange for peace. However, driven by rage, the proud king ordered the entire royal family to be executed. His cruelty plunged the neighboring nation into despair and sowed the seeds of heavy karmic debt. Just as the king believed his rule would continue unabated, fate intervened. His own kingdom was soon engulfed in rebellion. Generals who once served him turned against him, and the remnants of the enemy kingdom banded together to overthrow him. The once mighty king was defeated, captured, and executed by his enemies, his reign cut short. However, death was not the end for this king. His soul, burdened by the weight of his anger and greed, became trapped in the cycle of reincarnation. His past acts of violence and selfishness ensured that he would suffer through multiple lifetimes, bearing the consequences of his actions. In subsequent reincarnations, the former king found himself cast into the lower realms, experiencing the torments of the animal realm and the hungry ghost realm. In the animal realm, he reincarnated as a ferocious beast, driven by anger to hunt other creatures. His existence was a cycle of violence until he was ultimately killed by a stronger predator. In the hungry ghost realm, he lived in a state of perpetual hunger and thirst, unable to satisfy his needs. His past greed condemned him to this endless suffering. However, the wheel of reincarnation did not leave him in darkness forever. As the former king endured these lifetimes of suffering, he began to realize the nature of his past wrongs. His soul slowly awakened to the consequences of his actions, and he felt deep remorse for the lives he had destroyed. With this growing awareness, his soul began to detach from its attachment to power and wealth, seeking peace and redemption instead. Eventually, the former king was reborn as a monk in one of his later lives. This time, he was born into a wealthy Brahmin family in southern India, and he was given the name Bodhidharma. From a young age, Bodhidharma displayed extraordinary wisdom and had no interest in material possessions or power. Instead, he sought the teachings of the Buddha and longed to understand the mysteries of life and death. Bodhidharma soon became a disciple of a great Buddhist master and immersed himself in spiritual practice. Through meditation and contemplation, he came to realize the impermanence of all things and the truth that all phenomena are empty. He understood that only through spiritual awakening could one escape the endless cycle of reincarnation and attain true liberation. Bodhidharma later traveled to China, where he became the first patriarch of Zen Buddhism. It is said that he spent 9 years in meditation at Shaolin Monastery, reflecting on his past lives and continuing his spiritual practice. Through deep meditation, Bodhidharma fully awakened to the truth of emptiness and became an enlightened being. His teachings emphasized that true liberation does not come from external rituals or material wealth but from inner awakening and purity of heart. He taught his disciples, if one seeks to know the Buddha nature, one must first purify the mind. The Buddha nature will naturally manifest. Bodhidharma's reincarnation story is a testament to the power of repentance and spiritual practice. Even though he had accumulated immense negative karma in his past life as a king, the suffering he endured through reincarnation awakened his soul to the need for change. Through meditation and spiritual discipline, he was able to cleanse his karma and ultimately achieve enlightenment. This story reminds us that while our past karma shapes our destiny, the choices and actions we make in this life are just as important. Through introspection, repentance, and spiritual practice, we can gradually change our fate, break free from karmic bondage, and find inner peace and liberation. Bodhidharma's teachings continue to guide Zen practitioners to this day, inspiring generations to seek the path of awakening. The Egyptian story of Osiris' resurrection. Egyptian mythology is filled with themes of death, resurrection, and revenge. One of the most well-known stories is the resurrection of Osiris, a tale that not only illustrates the Egyptian view of reincarnation but also reveals the deep moral messages of karmic justice and redemption. Osiris, as the god of the dead and resurrection, symbolizes the cycle of life, death, and the soul's journey through the afterlife. A long time ago, along the fertile banks of the Nile, Osiris was revered as the great king of the people and the god who ruled over the Egyptian underworld. He was the son of Geb, the god of the earth, and Nut, the goddess of the sky. Osiris' brother, Set, was the god of storms and chaos, while his wife, Isis, was a powerful goddess of magic and life. Under Osiris' reign, Egypt prospered, and its people lived in peace. Osiris was known as a just ruler, for he governed with fairness and compassion. Osiris was not only a leader of men but also a wise god. He taught the people how to cultivate crops, build homes, and settle disputes peacefully. Under his rule, the lands along the Nile grew rich and fertile, and the people adored him, believing that Osiris was a gift from the Nile itself. However, Osiris' brother, Set, was filled with envy. As the god of chaos, Set could not bear to see the peace and prosperity Osiris had brought to the land. He grew resentful of his brother's success and decided to plot against him. Set's heart burned with hatred, and he devised a plan to destroy Osiris and seize the throne for himself. One day, Set invited Osiris to a grand banquet. At the feast, Set unveiled a beautifully crafted wooden coffin and told the gods in attendance, "I have prepared a special gift for this banquet. This coffin is perfectly made for the god who fits inside it. Whoever lies in it will claim it as their own." The gods took turns trying to lie in the coffin, but none fit perfectly. When it was Osiris' turn, he easily lay down in the coffin, and the moment he did, Set's trap was sprung. Set and his conspirators quickly sealed the coffin shut and bound it with iron chains. Set laughed triumphantly, declaring that Osiris was now imprisoned. He threw the coffin into the Nile, leaving Osiris to drift away, forever banished from the land of the living. The Nile's currents carried the coffin far downstream, and Osiris was trapped inside, unable to escape. Meanwhile, Set claimed the throne and began a reign of terror. The lands grew barren, storms ravaged the crops, and the people lived in fear and chaos as Set ruled with cruelty. Osiris' wife, Isis, was heartbroken by his fate, but she refused to give up hope. Isis was a powerful goddess, skilled in magic, and she was determined to find her husband's body and restore his rightful place. With the help of her loyal companion Nephthys, Isis embarked on a long journey, searching along the Nile for the coffin that held Osiris. After a long search, Isis finally found the coffin on a distant shore. However, Set learned of Isis' discovery and sought to foil her plans. In a final act of cruelty, Set tore Osiris' body into 14 pieces and scattered them across Egypt, hoping to destroy him once and for all. Isis, undeterred by Set's treachery, used her divine magic to search every corner of Egypt. With unwavering determination, she gathered each piece of Osiris' body, and with her immense magical power and love for her husband, she performed a ritual to bring him back to life. Chanting ancient spells, Isis summoned the forces of the earth and sky, restoring Osiris' body to its whole form. Through Isis' magic and unwavering devotion, Osiris was resurrected from the dead. However, his return to life did not mean that he could remain among the living. Osiris' resurrection was not a return to the mortal world but a passage to the underworld. Osiris became the ruler of the dead, overseeing the souls of those who had passed on, and guiding them through the afterlife. Though his soul no longer walked the earth, Osiris would forever watch over the dead, leading them through the gates of the underworld. From that moment on, Osiris was revered as the god of death and resurrection, a symbol of the eternal cycle of life. The Egyptians believed that upon death, each soul would stand before Osiris and be judged for their actions. The righteous would be granted eternal peace in the afterlife, while the wicked would face punishment. Osiris' resurrection is not just an important event in Egyptian mythology, it reflects the Egyptian belief in the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth. The story mirrors the rise and fall of the Nile, the growth and decay of crops, and the belief that death was not the end, but the beginning of a new journey in the afterlife. Through the resurrection of Osiris, the ancient Egyptians believed that life continued beyond death, and the soul would be reborn in the realm of the dead. The story of Osiris is still told today, serving as a symbol of eternal life and rebirth. Isis' devotion to her husband and her unwavering determination to restore him not only resurrected Osiris as the ruler of the underworld but also made him one of the most revered gods in Egyptian mythology. The story illustrates the profound truth that even in death, life is reborn, and the soul lives on in some form, never extinguished. The myth of Air from ancient Greece. In Plato's famous work, The Republic, there is a unique myth that tells the story of a soldier named Air who died in battle but was miraculously brought back to life. During his brief time in the afterlife, Air witnessed the process of reincarnation and the way souls are judged based on their deeds. This myth delves into the Greek philosophical ideas of karma and reincarnation, reflecting their belief in the immortality of the soul and the consequences of one's actions. The protagonist of the story, Air, was a brave soldier from the region of Pamphylia who fell in battle. His comrades, finding his body on the battlefield, took him back to their village to prepare for cremation. However, just as the funeral pyre was about to be lit, something miraculous happened. Air suddenly revived, returning from the brink of death. His resurrection shocked everyone, but the story he shared about what he had seen after death was even more astonishing. Air explained to the villagers that when he died, his soul had left his body and entered a mysterious realm, the underworld. There, he saw himself walking across a vast plain, where countless souls who had recently died gathered, waiting to be judged. The atmosphere was solemn and filled with awe, as the souls were divided into two groups, those destined for the heavens and those condemned to descend into the dark depths below. The souls who had lived virtuous lives were led toward the heavens to enjoy rewards, while those who had committed evil were taken down into the abyss to face their punishment. The judges of the underworld were stern yet just, carefully weighing each soul's actions during their earthly lives. Every soul's fate was determined by their past behavior, with no deed, good or bad, overlooked. Those who had lived righteously and performed good deeds were granted entry into the bliss of the heavens, while those who had committed evil acts were sent to the depths to endure the appropriate punishment. This was the law of the underworld, reflecting the Greek concept of karmic justice. However, Air's journey did not end with witnessing the judgment. In the underworld, he was also shown the mysterious process of reincarnation. After judgment, the souls did not remain in heaven or hell forever. Instead, they were required to return to the earthly realm through reincarnation. Air was given the rare privilege of witnessing this sacred choice. Every soul was allowed to choose a new form of life based on their karma, and they would begin the next chapter of their journey. The process of reincarnation left Air in awe. The gods presented various life forms for the souls to choose from. Some were human bodies, while others were animals. Some souls chose to be kings, others chose to be humble farmers, some selected powerful wild animals, while others chose small insects. Each soul had to face its past and think carefully about its future before making its choice. Air noticed that many souls were confused by their past experiences and desires when choosing their next life. Some souls who had enjoyed endless pleasure in the heavens were seduced by the appearance of grand, luxurious lives but did not realize that behind those lives lay great suffering and trials. On the other hand, some souls, having endured torment and hell, repented deeply and chose simple, modest lives in hopes of accumulating more virtue in their next existence. Air also saw one soul choose the form of a lion, seeking strength and majesty, while another soul chose to become an eagle, wishing to soar through the skies. However, the outcomes were not always as they expected. Those who sought power and might often found themselves entangled in endless conflict and strife, unable to attain true peace. In contrast, those who chose lives of humility and simplicity found inner tranquility and contentment, despite their ordinary lives. In the underworld, Hermes, the messenger god, was responsible for guiding the souls through the cycle of reincarnation. Hermes advised the souls not to be deceived by appearances when choosing their new lives. The true meaning of life did not lie in status or wealth but in the soul's growth and evolution. Each life was a new beginning, and the soul's destiny depended entirely on its understanding of good and evil and the karma it had accumulated in previous lives. Air also saw that some souls never seemed to learn from their mistakes. They repeatedly chose lives filled with desires and greed, and as a result, they were trapped in a cycle of suffering. Other souls, however, used each reincarnation to grow and awaken, gradually freeing themselves from the grip of desire and moving toward higher spiritual realms. Finally, Air's soul reached the front of the line, ready to choose a new life. But just as he was about to make his choice, a god intervened and told him, "You will return to the world of the living, but not in a new form. You will return as yourself, for you have been chosen to witness and share the truth of reincarnation and karma with the living." With that, Air's soul re-entered his body, and he woke from death. He returned to the living world with the knowledge of the afterlife, sharing the truth of reincarnation, divine judgment, and karmic consequences with all who would listen. This ancient Greek myth conveys profound philosophical ideas. The soul is eternal, and one's actions have consequences, even after death. Reincarnation is a process of continuation, where each life is a reflection of the past and a step toward the future. Through this story, Plato presents deep reflections on the meaning of life and justice, reminding us to treat others with kindness and live virtuously, lest we fall into an endless cycle of suffering in future lives. It also serves as a call to pursue righteousness and wisdom, as every choice we make shapes the future of our soul. Conclusion. Stories of karma and reincarnation have transcended time and place, deeply embedded in religious and cultural traditions worldwide. Whether in Chinese Buddhism, Taoism, or folklore, or in Hinduism, Tibetan Buddhism, and even ancient Greek and Egyptian cultures, the ideas of reincarnation and karma are deeply rooted, forming the moral and philosophical backbone of many societies. These stories not only convey the teachings of reincarnation but also offer wisdom on how to practice self-discipline and change one's destiny through virtuous actions. Thank you for watching our program. Regardless of whether you believe in karma, every choice we make shapes our lives. So today, choose to follow us, journey with us, and grow with our channel as we accumulate good karma together. Thank you.